With Eversense, the long-term sensor helps me spend less time dealing with my CGM. I only need 2 sensor changes a year.
If you're on multiple doses of insulin, you might greatly benefit from the Eversense E3 CGM system, the only continuous glucose monitoring system that lasts for up to 6 months with one sensor. Still doing frequent sensor changes? Break free today with Eversense.
For important safety information and to learn more about Eversense, please visit eversensediabetes.com/safety.
Hey, it's me, your Uncle Cooper. Sorry to interrupt your music. I do love music, especially when it's set at a reasonable volume. You know, music is really only as good as your speakers. The same is true for minivans. A minivan is only as good as the tires it sits on. And the button on the screen there, it agrees with me. If you click on it, it'll bring you to all the Cooper minivan tires that'll make your minivan a really good minivan. Go with the Coopers! Cooper!
Hey folks, I know last week we had a Without Compromise episode that was a crossover. That's the other show I host, Without Compromise, from Athletic Brewing, which is my day job, non-alcoholic craft beer. You may have heard of it. If you hadn't, it's really good non-alcoholic craft beer. I know that sounds like an oxymoron, but here at Athletic Brewing, or here at Adventure Sports Podcast, sorry, confusing the two, we like to go against the grain, and I like to do that in my day job too. So it's perfect for me, who likes to do things differently, likes to talk to people who are doing things differently. And today's guest is actually one of our athletes, our pro athletes at Athletic Brewing, Malia Manuel, who has been on the World Surf League for like a decade and some change now. And we're talking to her about like what motivates her, how she stays fit and kind of like mentally strong, and just kind of her lifestyle. So a little different for our show. I didn't mean to book two right next to each other, but we have some very Adventure Sports Podcast-esque episodes surrounding this, like from Thursday, Heather Anderson, and then coming up, we're going to be talking to there's going to be a throwback to a really cool episode. But I am out of town right now. I am at, let's see, what day is it? October 31st. I am at the Outdoor Media Summit today, and we are a gathering of media from the outdoor industry all over the country, meeting at Lake Tahoe, North Lake Tahoe. So I'm there. If you're there, come say hello. If you're near there, come say hello. If not, it should be some really cool stuff. A lot of the episodes from this year, 2022, came from connections that I made at the Outdoor Media Summit last year, and I expect this summit to produce the same results. We're going to be meeting literally hundreds of people in media, podcasts, journalists, gear review folks, marketing folks, all from the outdoors. So I'm doing that, so I prepped all these episodes ahead of time. So enjoy Malia's story, and yeah, happy Halloween. Welcome. How you doing?
Hi, Mason. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So I think I hear some birds in the background or something. And maybe a dog
You
too.
do.
I don't know.
Yep. A little bit of everything. Couple roosters. Yeah.
It's morning. What time is it, by the way?
It's almost 9 a.m.
Oh my gosh. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. I know it's like I'm on the East Coast of the U.S., so it's almost 3:00 here. And oh my gosh, this is so cool. So good to be able to talk to you. Now, I know you were born and raised there. Is that where you still are in the town of Wailua?
Yes, I was born and raised on the island of Kuai. It's a little island off our main island, and Honolulu is our state. But yeah, I'm 5th generation from this island on my dad's side. Yeah, it's been a pleasure to grow up in such a beautiful place. I'm still here. I'm still in love with it. And I am always going to have Kuai in my heart, no matter where I go.
5 generations, I know a lot has probably changed in the sense of development. But have you noticed a lot of change in your lifetime in where you live?
I have and I haven't. The feeling of that magical feeling you get when you're hiking in the mountains or surfing. Some of the surf breaks here hasn't changed, and with over time, a lot of things have changed, but that feeling and that sense of magic you get when you're on island hasn't changed one bit.
That is too cool. So you're totally in love. It wasn't like I got to get out of here, go find my own path. It's like, no, this is about as good as it gets on Earth.
Yeah, I'm so thankful. Yeah, I think Kauai and the community and this island has shaped me to be who I am, as a surfer and as a person. So I'm so thankful. And yeah, I think the simplicity of it is awesome, and I think just the uniqueness of an island life, and I love it.
We've got the ocean and the mountains. I wanted to ask you before we jump into kind of like how you got into surfing and all that. What's a big misconception about living in Hawaii? Because you've been able to travel the world and surf, and I'm sure people are always like, "Oh, you live there? That's wonderful." At least everyone that like went and did that shoot lately from Athletic, they were all like, "I can't believe that's your life. It's incredible." What's a big misconception that we all don't realize?
Oh my gosh. That's a good question. I think I don't know. I mean, yeah, we don't wear coconut bras and walk around in tea leaf skirts all the
Oh,
time.
you don't? Oh, wow. See, we do. We do over here. No, just kidding. That's hilarious. But, or is it, yeah, is life just as good as it seems?
It is. I mean, anywhere in the world, you have your ups and downs, but it is pretty lovely. And where I'm from, it's very slow, so it definitely takes a certain person to live here. Like, I know a lot of people fall in love coming and visiting, but it also, it takes a certain personality to be content with maybe like a slower paced life.
Interesting. Because you're obviously competitive and highly competitive in the sense of just what you've achieved. And as a pro surfer, did you find it challenging to keep that competitive edge in a place that's so laid back?
I did, yeah. I definitely had to learn how to be competitive, and it took a very long time. I started surfing contests around 8, and just growing up in this community, everyone kind of knows whose turn it is in the water, and everyone's like very, very close, and you can't really get away with anything on this island. And so I kind of grew up with that lifestyle, and when you take that into competing, it's not going to work out most times.
No, it's not.
It's a different beast. And so I definitely had to learn how to turn that switch on, which was really difficult. I could get into that competitive mode, but then when I was younger, like I couldn't turn it off. So my personality outside of competing was kind of the same, maybe a bit fiery or whatever, however you want to describe the mode that you can get in, or athletes can get in when competing. And it's taken a long time to know when the right time is to turn that mode on and turn that mode off, and where to put your energy as far as like competing and then as far as real life.
Because I know your parents were avid surfers. I read stories about them literally like taking places watching you as the other one surfed.
Yeah.
On the beach. And was that, they didn't compete at all though, right?
No, my parents are just complete passion surfers. They're so passionate, and they actually met surfing. So my mom flew over to Kauai for her 21st birthday and never left.
Wow. From California, right?
Yeah, from California. And my dad was like the only nice one that would give waves out in the lineup. Supposedly that's the story.
True gentleman.
Yeah, they just love surfing. They knew where they wanted to go the night before, like with forecasts and tide and wind. And so they knew exactly where to be the next morning. And, my dad is still extremely passionate, surfs probably longer than I do on most days. And, they never really got into competing. My dad did a couple events, but it was mostly just the love of surfing and being in the ocean and being at the beach and that lifestyle. Fortunately, I got to spend a lot of time with my parents and growing up at the beach, and it kind of never was forced by my parents. It just kind of became who I am.
So you're not one of those cases where, because we see it all the time, parents living vicariously through their kids through competition, like, I didn't go as far as I wanted, so I'm going to kind of push my kids to be something I wasn't. So I guess that wasn't the case with you. So how did competition even enter the picture?
Of course. Yeah. Fortunately, I was going to school, and then I kind of started doing homeschool at one point around third grade. And my parents just wanted me to have weekends with kids and socializing. And they kind of highly suggested that I didn't like being hot and on a soccer field. And so I got convinced that I loved surfing in a way that, just being at the beach and in the ocean. And so I started surfing Menehune contests, which are just like kid contests for fun on the weekends. And of course, met a lot of friends that I still have till this day. And that's kind of how it started. It was just for fun. Like, my mom would bring treats and make brownies for all the kids, and we'd have, the contest, but that really didn't matter. It was just about, hanging out on the beach. And yeah, it was so fun. We had the best kid contests you could possibly ask for growing up. So that was so fun. And opportunities, slowly kind of arose from competing, as far as little sponsorships with companies and little like modeling things. And then I went back to school because I wanted to graduate with, the friends and kind of have a normal life. And then, just the opportunity just kept coming and doors kept opening, and it was harder and harder to commit to being present at school. And so I took my GED when I was 16 and kind of pursued more professional junior events and started traveling a lot more and, just seizing the opportunities that were there at the time.
Sounds like the healthiest childhood ever leading up to that. Really, really friendly competitions, brownies on the beach. It just sounds fantastic. Obviously, you were showing talent early on, but you never, at least from what I read, you weren't like convinced you were going to be great. You were almost like doubting yourself. Like I read, for instance, right before you won at 14, the U.S. Open, you told your mom to only park at the beach for an hour, like only pay for an hour, so that because I'm going to be over really quick. But obviously, you were there longer than an hour. Was that just surprising, your level of success at that point, or was it something you were honestly hoping for?
Yeah, well, it was surprising. I mean, I love surfing, and I kind of fell in love with competing in a way. Like, for me, it was kind of like chess, and I really loved academics and school. And so for me, I kind of looked at competing pretty analytically, like as far as like playing the game and having plans and kind of creating my own plan and being in control of what I could control. And then, but then there's also that kind of unpredictability and that unknown too. So that kind of is intriguing. And so I kind of was just present with that and just going with the flow. I was extremely young to even know what I could get out of surfing at the time. So I had no idea what was possible. And then with the US Open, I was 14 and I got a wild card slot from my sponsor. I was saving up for a car, my first car. And I was like, hopefully I can make a couple heats and it'll go towards my car. So I always had this like goal for that event. And what was funny is like, even till this day now, like my mom and I like won't pay for parking all day because it's like, now it's like a superstition, like just pay for an hour. We'll see how it goes. Like don't want to jinx it. Oh, we'll make flights for like flying out on the final day. And if you make the final, we'll change them. Like there's still little bits of that are still stem from when I was 14 and that amazing moment and pinnacle turning point in my teenage years for my career.
That is so wild. Yeah. So you were the youngest to win, not even old enough to drive, but I know you were saving up for a car. That's hilarious. I did read you were like, all right, if I win this way, if I can get new rims, if I win this way, if I can get a radio or like something. That's
exactly. Yeah.
That is awesome.
A little motivation always helps.
Absolutely, yeah. I'm sure. Maybe it's still rims. I don't know, but I'm sure it's changed beyond that. But I guess I want to know. That was totally unexpected by you in a lot of ways, but also by the surfing world. What were some of the biggest, maybe not culture shocks, but like life changes that took place post winning the U.S. Open, from going from a regular 14-year-old that loves to surf, lives in Hawaii, as regular as that can be, but going from that to winning? What changed? Let's take a quick message break and hear from the folks that help make this show possible. As all of you know, when it comes to getting ready for an adventure or actually doing the adventure, it usually involves a credit card of some sort. Credit card is just easier than cash to deal with a lot of the times. It's lighter. That's very important on a lot of adventures. But believe it or not, there's actually a credit card called the Aspiration Zero credit card that can help you tackle your negative impact on the climate just by using it. It's the first credit card that fights climate change by planting trees with every swipe. And the way it works is simple. With an Aspiration Zero credit card, you plant 2 trees with every purchase you make. And 2 trees soak up about the same amount of carbon dioxide in the air as the average American puts out every day. Not only do you help the planet when you swipe the card, you also get another green reward too. Cash money, baby. Unlimited 1% cash back on all your monthly purchases when you hit carbon zero for the month. So as you start buying things for that next adventure, or you're on the adventure and you use your card, you can know that you're offsetting a lot of what you're doing. So make your dollars make a difference. Apply for the Aspiration Zero credit card today and earn a $300 welcome bonus after spending $3,000 in the first 90 days. Apply right now at aspiration.com/ASP to go carbon neutral effortlessly and earn a $300 bonus. Go to aspiration.com/ASP. Aspiration Zero MasterCard is issued by Beneficial State Bank, pursuant to license by MasterCard International Incorporated. Good credit required. Terms and conditions apply.
Hey, electrical contractors. I'm Matt from ABB. Are rising costs and product delays keeping you up at night? We can help you contractor better. ABB's contractor resources are designed to help you increase productivity and profitability on your commercial construction projects. Check out Contractor Better today. Visit go.abb/contractorbetter.
That is plenty of that for now. Let's get back into the episode.
Yeah, quite a few things. Like, I got invited to go to the Mentawais on a boat trip, and I got sponsored by Nike. And then I had also a lot of other opportunities to enter more prestigious events. So a lot had changed over the course of from that win and continuing for the next year and beyond. But those were some major things as far as, having great sponsorship and being able to be supported and travel and compete how I wanted to, as far as like having enough resources to bring my mom on the road and do everything right, stay in a nice place, feel comfortable, invest in, equipment or eating well, and all of that thanks to, the sponsorship and support and them realizing and knowing, like, as a young girl, like, I might need all of these things as far as like having a parent there and continuing a healthy path to hopefully be the best I could be and become as successful as I could.
And what was at that time success, like the range of success to you? Was it winning as much as possible, or was it placing top 5? I know that it's hard to get back on that podium, but what were you viewing as success?
Yeah, you usually lose more than you win in surfing events.
I thought it was just me. I'm just kidding.
So it wasn't the thought of winning, but as far as surfing, like, you have what's called the World Championship Tour, the WCT, and that is the highest level of competing and competitive surfing that you could be involved in. And that only consists of 18 women. And you have to go through a tour to qualify for that tour. And so that became the goal, was to be on this world championship tour going for what we call a world title in surfing. And that's like up until this most recent Olympics, like that's our Olympics. That's like who determines the best surfer in the world in multiple different conditions, and determines like consistency in a surfer. And so for me, success at that, when I was that young at 15, was to make the tour. That was the goal, as far as once allowing to get that support and those sponsorships. That was the main success goal at that time.
And how was that going?
It was great. I mean, I got to qualify the first year that I tried. I made the CT at the end of when I was 16. So 2012 was my first full year on tour, and that was amazing. It's been an incredible journey, and we get to go to about 10 events a year around the world and compete in some incredible places. And without the tour, and without, I think, that level of surfing and the generation of women surfers that I'm surrounded by, like, I wouldn't be the surfer I am today without it. It's really helped me elevate to places that I never thought I would be.
And I'd love, honestly, maybe just a little explanation about how it works, just the World Surf League, because I know it's a sport that can be niche, or a lot of people don't know about it that might be listening to this. And like just how like the points work, and how, like you said, there's 10 events or so, or a few events around the world that you qualify for, and it all leads up to rankings and all that.
Yeah. So the simplest way to put it is kind of like, so there's 18 elite women on this tour, and there's 10 events, and we're basically there's brackets, of course. So you have like round 1, round 2, round 3, until you're, everyone gets eliminated to the final, which is just 2 people. And you're competing basically for points, to accumulate points. Like best 8 out of 10 events is what we count. And so, throughout the year, you surf all these rounds and heats at each event, and you accumulate a certain amount of points based on your placing. And whoever has the most consistency and the highest amount of points goes for the world title, and or wins a world title if you're number 1 at the end of the year. This year it's changed a little bit. The top 5 kind of compete out of just one day for the world title, but for majority of my career, it was like at the end of the year, best 8 out of 10 events, you become world champion.
Now I know that has been elusive for you over the years. How have you been able to process that, and what have you learned the most from still trying to get there, still striving for that?
Yeah, it's a lot of, my love for competing changes throughout the years. It's, the first handful of years, it's really just trying to find your place and what makes you comfortable on the road for so long. We're gone traveling and, not home, and not having consistency as far as like a home base for most of the year. And so those first few years, I was really just trying to survive. It was kind of just like surviving, getting to know the places that I've traveled and surfed, and a lot of the places we go back to year after year. And so it's kind of just like research and development in these foreign places and these foreign waves, and what makes me feel the most comfortable and most clear-headed, so that I can use my instincts in the ocean. And that was, the majority of year 1 through 5 being on tour. And then slowly, as I got more and more comfortable and pushing the level of surfing, it's like, how can I get better and stay relevant? And so that's kind of where my focus was. And how can I stay consistent? And what's making me get fifth place only in most of these events? Like, why are the semis and finals just like at my fingertips, but kind of just, floating out to the horizon, but like I can't reach it. And so there's different phases in my career. And for me, I obviously wouldn't have dedicated a third of my life or half of my life to competing and not wanting to win a world title. But there are expectations like that, but it's a marathon. And so I always got really good advice on enjoying the journey and like what it takes to be a full, well-rounded surfer. And for me, I have different priorities, whether that's, everyone's different, but as far as like not compromising style and like creating like strength and grace while surfing, and how can I, have that unique look and be happy with how I'm surfing and not, just making these 5 people / judges, impress. Like how am I going to leave a mark with my surfing as far as in a stylish way, instead of like, oh, I just want to impress these people because my career depends on it. Obviously that's a part of it and how I need to stay on tour, but there's also so many different elements when it comes to, being fulfilled in such a unknown and chaotic environment in the ocean.
You've been a pro for so long. Is that typical of a professional surfer, or are you kind of defying, I don't know, the expectation in that sense too, like when you won the US Open at 14?
Yeah, I think it's pretty typical. I think my generation, if you are on tour right now, like you definitely have been competing and surfing for most of your life, and you have been going through the different levels from when you're a kid and into the juniors, into like semi-pro, and then becoming professional. It definitely takes consistency and dedication, and there are millions of great surfers in the world, but it takes that little bit of extra dedication and grit and mental strength, and dedicating a lot to your body and health to sustain such a lifestyle and sustain it at the highest level. So it is a minority. My generation is probably the longest running generation on tour, and everyone is still getting better, which is so amazing. Yeah, I'm very lucky to be surrounded by the people I am right now in surfing.
That is too cool. And now I know there's a few instances that you've dealt with injuries. What was your mindset going into being injured? Like, okay, got to get through this. Especially the most recent one, I think it was in 2019. Was that the worst of the 2 incidents, or has there been more?
I think, all injuries are pretty unfortunate, and kind of one of my biggest fears, because I don't get to surf, I don't get to move as much.
Yeah.
I'm taken away from traveling and surfing, and so my first injury, when I tore my MCL, it was my first major injury, and that was I believe 2017. And I had not known what injuries are like and how long I'd be out and away from surfing. And I kind of denied it for a really long time, probably for the first like few weeks. I was like, oh, I'll be back. I'll be, be here. I'll be there. And I kind of really denied the fact that the universe was just telling me to slow down and stop at this point. And so it took me quite a long time, because that was my first injury, and not really, taking responsibility of the fact that like I should just focus on that acute thing. And I've torn 3 MCLs over the course of my career. And I think each injury is a blessing in disguise now. And that's how I deal with it, and kind of just being able to recenter and refocus on what's important to me in my life and my career and my body. And I kind of enjoy putting a lot of energy and time back into my body, and injuries are what gives me an immense amount of time with myself mentally and physically. And, I've met such incredible, knowledgeable people through physical therapy and, acupuncture and nutrition. And so that whole side of injury I've kind of taken as a positive throughout my career. And it is what it is. And with the ocean and how powerful it is, and the amount of repetition that our bodies go through in the same movement, it's definitely not symmetrical. And so there's a lot to surfing, and that pressure as well, and the stress. And so it all, can come about in an injury. And I think with any injury, whatever sport, you have to kind of just take a step back and refocus, and, just accept what's happening. That's kind of what I've learned through injuries.
Well, I mean, once it happens, you can't change it. It happened. You can't reverse that. So moving forward and dealing with it is the best way to go about it. How is the tour going this year? How are you feeling? How are you approaching, and what's next for 2022?
Yeah, it's been quite the shakeup on tour this year. I started out really well. Like, we had our first full event at Pipeline this year, which was really exciting and scary. I had to spend a lot of time last winter getting to know that wave and being out with the intensity and the crowd and, the wave itself. And so that was pretty exciting. And I had a really great event at Sunset Beach, which also is a very tricky wave. So I was very, very proud and excited that I made the final there, because it is probably one of the more difficult waves to read and get to know, especially, if you're not from there and haven't surfed there too much. Yeah, and then this year there was like a cut that happened, and so only the top 10 are continuing on for the second half of the year, and I had missed that by 60 points, and then I didn't get the wild card for the rest of the year. And so at this point right now, I'm just kind of living life, and I'm traveling to places that I've always wanted to go but didn't have an event at. And so I just got back from Tahiti, and I'm going back to the Mentawais next week. I haven't been back there in like 11 years. So as far as the rest of my year, I'm an unfortunate thing is me missing the cut, but also the most fortunate thing is that I have the support to travel to these places and hopefully, create a couple short films and series and kind of reassess at the end of the year if I want to continue competing or not. But yeah, that's where I'm at the moment.
Would you say this is a crossroads in some ways?
Yes and no. I know, like,
or something new?
Yeah, something new. I think I've competed for so long, and I've had so much fun, but there's also been so much hardship. And I mean, with any job, there's disappointment, and with any job, there's ups and downs. And I've taken so much gratitude from competing and the tour, and it's not going to be forever competing in the tour. And so I'm kind of looking forward to other projects and working on other things right now, but I am very competitive, so I do miss it. And who knows what'll happen? Maybe I'll, in a couple months, want to get back on and strive for that again. But right now, this summer, I've just had other opportunities to surf and film in new places. And so right now, that's really, really exciting to me.
It's fantastic. And speaking of exciting or new things, what have been some of the changes you've seen in professional surfing over the years? especially as it relates to women surfing. And how do you feel about the future of the sport?
Yeah, I've seen a lot. I feel like I've been in like a metamorphosis of change in women's surfing since when I first got on tour. Like my first couple of years, we maybe had, not even 10 events, and our year was cut short and it finished in June, and we didn't have as good of waves as the guys, and everything was pretty expensive to travel, and our prize money was not the greatest. And so throughout the years, as far, coming along with progression and how much advancement the women have, elevated in their surfing, and has come along with, equal prize money now and better events and really good conditions, and running the event on the same day as the guys, having that equal opportunity as far as like conditions and wave height. And, it's really come a long way, and it's super cool to be in it from the beginning, kind of when things were like, at one point we didn't even have priority in the ocean, which is like, when someone takes a wave, it's your turn next. And so like, it's, in the beginning of my career, like we didn't even have that in some of the first rounds. And now it's like so professional and very organized and very high quality event sites and places that we get to go. And so I do really appreciate it, because I've also competed in less of conditions and less prize money back when I first started.
You seem so positive about it too, like in the sense of just cheerful. Would you say that's one of your strengths? I've read a lot about people often talk about your attitude or your positivity. Is that just how you are? Or
yeah, I mean, everyone has good and bad days, but I mean, as far as like surfing, I just love surfing so much, and I'm very thankful for the life that I've created from surfing and from competing. And so, that's kind of where my positivity comes from. Like, the life I get to live, I'm so thankful for. And like, a lot of my days revolve around, trying to elevate my surfing and my health. And I get to focus my energy a lot on that, and like being the best version of me. And so I don't take that for granted. And so a lot of it is due from surfing. And so, yeah, it's a great life. And I think, and it's only going to get better. I think there's just so much more opportunity now as athletes as a whole, and not just like, oh, you're just a surfer. And so, and I've seen that, firsthand with a lot of different brand opportunities. And, surfing is one of the most intriguing sports in the world, and also has the hardest learning curve. So it also is what's so intriguing as well. And the ocean is like super humbling and unpredictable. And I think that's why a lot of people, keep coming back to it, and the progression and the technology and the equipment and everything just keeps getting elevated year after year. And it's super exciting, and it's very professional, and taken, like a lot of athletes are taking to account, like how serious it is now. And it's awesome to see. And it's a great community, and, it's not going anywhere. That's for sure.
let's take a quick message break and hear from the folks that help make this show possible. That is plenty of that for now. Let's get back into the episode. Yeah, no, I think the water's there to stay. Too cool. Well, I love it. I love the outlook. That's very much
Thank
our
you.
our CEO, Bill Schufelt, might be the most positive person I've ever met in my life in athletic, and you're very similar in that sense. Just very positive. I know we're not seeing each other now, but you were smiling the whole time. I'd love to ask you a couple rapid fire questions.
Let's do it
now. Yeah. So here's my official warning. What are you most curious about right now outside of surfing?
Nature for me keeps me curious. I love the feeling I get out in nature, and so it could be anywhere in the world. I'm really curious about nature.
Nature. There, I got to follow up with this because that's like my biggest passion in the world is the outdoors. Nature. Obviously, the ocean is natural. What are you talking about? Are you talking, when people say nature, a lot of times it goes straight to forest or covered areas like that. What's nature to you in that sense?
Yeah, I think, well, we could go on and on about this, but for me, I'd like to start at home, actually, nature and like where my ancestors came from and like how they got here and the culture, like nature and culture. For me, I'm very curious about, like, I want to continue to learn, like, where I came from and the traditions that have, stemmed from being Hawaiian. And so I'd like to start that curiosity at home and kind of like track that. And it's a reason why I went to Tahiti too, because I feel like a connection there as far as like, like my ancestors maybe even, sailing from there to Hawaii. And so that's like really intriguing. It's like nature and culture and how can I continue that tradition being Hawaiian, which would, for me, it's hula and dancing and hula is storytelling in movement. And so I'm very curious about that and wanting to spend more time at home and in nature for me here, and then exploring like other culture and nature. I've always really wanted to go to Machu Picchu or, see the pyramids. And there's just so much in the world that I want to see. And I love being outside and I love being in the mountains and that as far as like movement and hiking and, just being in a natural element and a natural state around the world. But first, starting here at home.
Oh, nothing better. Nothing better than being outside.
Mm-hmm.
What would you say your proudest achievement is outside of your career?
That's a good one. That's a good question. Out of surfing. I'd like to say I'm surrounded by some really great people. I have some really great friends, and I think that's one of my proudest things is having friends and family that have been with you through a lot and are still there for you. And so I think that's one of my proudest achievements is having some good friends.
That's a great answer. I love that. Biggest goal not yet achieved.
Ooh, that's a great one. Biggest goal not.
Yes, you didn't know this was therapy, right?
Yeah, I love this. I really want to make a short film and somehow be creative. I want to create art and in maybe like a film format of some sorts. I love kind of like that creative side that I get to, hopefully dabble in as far as maybe traveling and creating a short film of some sorts or, storytelling for me. I really want to storytell in some way. And I think, traveling and videography and filming might be that outlet for me. And so, yeah, I want to storytell. And, hopefully that happens soon.
Is that surfing or is that just other stories?
I think
fiction,
a little bit of surfing, but I want to, surfing is so relatable in other ways that aren't like directly correlated with like the physical like thing of like actually doing surfing. And so I don't know, I want to like relate to people in a broader community of as far as creating like a healthy lifestyle and relating my experiences with surfing, but it doesn't have to be like about surfing. Surfing's kind of like mindful meditation, and so maybe just creating or telling stories about other people's experiences that can relate to the ocean or surfing, but it doesn't have to be about surfing. But kind of diving more into culture and other people's stories.
That's exciting. As you get to these goals, what's a daily habit you stick to?
Oh, this is a whole other podcast, the habits.
Habits.
It's the only thing I can control as an athlete, being a surfer and being in the ocean. Is routine and habit. No, but consistency kind of creates flow or sustains flow. And so I'm really big on habits and routine. And yeah, I mean, for me, I love a morning routine because I feel like that sets up my day and kind of like gives me that moment to reflect and like what I want to accomplish in the day. So I think some like a morning routine is always very important, and trying to become the best version of myself, whether that's through eating right, drinking, to each his own, but that's kind of my focus is, creating those healthy habits and that lifestyle. And, it's to sustain, to be able to prolong surfing and doing what I love.
Mm-hmm. So the question was daily habits you stick to, and your answer is yes. All of them. Many.
All of it.
All
everything. Habits. Good and bad.
Good and bad. No, I love that. Let's see. I've seen this one before. Someone asked you this before, but let's see if there's anything different. A hobby that you have that folks don't know about or you don't talk about a lot.
Oh, I am yoga teacher certified. I got my yoga teacher training over COVID, so that was really fun. And I love teaching yoga sculpt and creating exercises and creating the playlist for my workout classes. Like that's really fun for me. That probably not a lot of people know yet.
That's awesome. Very cool.
Yeah.
Do you have a favorite Athletic Brewing beer?
I do. I like Run Wild. That's the one that is my go-to Athletic Brew beer.
I love that. Was the first one I ever had, and still to this day, definitely.
I know, me too. It's kind of like my first, I do like the Athletic Light though. That is also very satisfying.
Yes.
To me, especially in the summer. I'm loving that at the moment too. Those are my favorite two Athletic brews.
So on each of those cans it says brew without compromise. Because we, obviously non-alcoholic beer is a totally different idea. Not a lot of people doing that. It was kind of against the grain, and to do something different, you kind of have to, do it excellently. But you can't just isolate excellence in one area of your life. You kind of have to live without compromise, like those daily habits you're talking about. And so we say,
absolutely.
You say to brew without compromise, you got to live without compromise. What does it mean to you to live without compromise?
That's a great question. I think having an open mind is a big one for me, and not compromising your feelings. Like I think how you feel is, your gut feeling is usually always right. And so like not going against that and not compromising like how you feel to, whatever it is, make other people happy or whatever that may be.
First of all, thank you so much for listening. It means the world to us that you choose to listen to this show. If you'd like to help us further, you can leave a review on iTunes, share us with your friends, your family. It goes a long way to growing the show. You can also support us financially through patreon.com/adventuresportspodcast. Link is in the show notes. And also, if you have an idea of who could be a good guest for the show, we're always looking for people to tell their story about the outdoors or adventure. So if you know someone, please reach out. Email us at info@adventuresportspodcast.com. And until then, get out there and have some fun.
When it comes to sports, you can't beat live. Vivid Seats has tickets to all of your favorite teams at great prices, and all with a 100% buyer guarantee. Visit vividseats.com or download the app and use 10 Sports for $10 off your first $100 purchase.
Hey, it's me, your Uncle Cooper. Sorry to interrupt your music. I do love music, especially when it's set at a reasonable volume. Music is really only as good as your speakers. The same is true for minivans. A minivan is only as good as the tires it sits on. And the button on the screen there, it agrees with me. If you click on it, it'll bring you to all the Cooper minivan tires that'll make your minivan a really good minivan. Go with the Coopers! Cooper!